A Huntington County man saw numerous doctors before he was finally diagnosed with cancer, a diagnosis he never expected to hear. Here's Brian Miller's journey. 55-year-old Brian Miller is an avid hunter and fisherman.
I like to archery hunt, which is my favorite. I've hunted all over the world over my lifetime, and I hunt, white-tailed deer and fish for striper and ocean fish.
Brian's favorite pastimes were put on hold after doctors diagnosed him with cancer. The symptoms began in January of 2017, and that's when he saw his family doctor.
Basically, I just started with a lot of pain on the side of my face and my ear and down into my throat, and really wasn't sure what it was. Kind of thought maybe it was an inner ear infection or something, so I went to my local doctor and they put me on an antibiotic.
He would just say about how bad of headaches he was getting and his swallowing, and he would be choking on things that normally he wouldn't choke on whenever he was eating.
It seemed like it got better, and then I went back in again, and they put me on antibiotics again. And then somewhere about February, I started to cough up a little blood.
So Brian saw a lung specialist, and then an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
And he said, I don't like what I'm seeing. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I knew then there was something wrong.
6 months after the symptoms started, Brian was referred to Hershey Medical Center.
When I saw him, he had a large mass in his oropharynx, which is the part of the body that links the back of the mouth to the throat. And he had enlarged lymph nodes on both sides of his neck.
It was on my tonsil, and then it moved into my base of my tongue. It went in the roof of my mouth.
We took a biopsy, and we looked and found that a biopsy of tonsillar tissue came back as squamous cell carcinoma. That is a type of cancer of the oropharynx. It was further characterized to harbor a P16 marker, which shows that it was most probably caused by the HPV virus.
At the time, I was pretty much a mess, just trying to cope with it.
It is not ever a word you want to hear, but as I said, we had had the discussion before. We'll do what we need to do in order to get through this.
I kind of went to church and put that in God's hands to deal with it. I couldn't deal with it, and I kind of was able to accept it from that point on.
In Mr. Miller's case, because he had extensive disease in his oropharynx and disease on both sides of his neck, we decided that he would probably be better served by getting chemoradiation.
As soon as they biopsied it, they knew what it was, and then they put the feeding tube in within a week, I believe it was, maybe 2 weeks.
Typically, the patients are given a few courses of special chemotherapy over 2 or 3 weeks to sensitize the tumor. That is, make the tumor more susceptible to destruction by the radiation, and then they go through 5 to 6 weeks of radiation therapy.
The radiation was 35 treatments, and eventually my throat got really bad. I couldn't even drink, I couldn't eat. Thank God I had a feeding tube, so anyway I could get liquid in.
Everything about this whole thing has been scary. We're not that old. He was 54 when this all happened, so we have kids that are 21 and 24 and still at home, and it was scary for all of us.
October 12th was my last radiation, and boy, I was a happy man. It really took a toll. I was really in a lot of pain. My throat was really, really raw.
It was a great day. That we knew was the end of that brutal side of the treatments.
It took months for Brian to heal and to regain his strength. The best part of the recovery was hearing the results of a recent CAT scan.
What you can see when you come down to the base of tongue, the entire large tumor that you saw before is gone. And as you come down to the neck where he had metastases, gone on both sides of the neck. He had a wonderful response. This is all relatively normal looking.
I think there was probably a collective during that moment of the conversation.
The treatment was a success, so I was happy, and I pray that it doesn't come back.
I think he's doing great. Doing great. We are very happy, and life goes on from here.
I feel like I want to do something. I want to get outdoors. I love the outdoors. I want to get back to what I enjoy.
Brian will have follow-up appointments with Dr. Goldenberg for the next 5 years.